I'd like to call the June 24th, 2021 meeting to order. Roll call, Madam City Clerk. He is away.
Flaherty.
Here.
Harris. Here. Matthews Kane.
Here.
Mello.
Here.
Morganelli.
Here.
Oniski.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Adams.
Here.
Alley.
Not sure.
Bean.
Here.
Beltrandi.
Here.
Burns.
Here. I don't need that. Communications from the mayor. Item 1, Councilor Oniski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would you please ask Madam City Clerk to read item 1 and refer to L&O and law?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2, Councilor
Can I
Flaherty.
ask Madam City Clerk to read that, please?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. President.
One is submitting a resolution of the City Council of the City of Westfield authorizing approval of the mayor to sign a host community agreement with Lucky 7 Cannabis, Inc., a Massachusetts corporation, to be operated at 0 Timber Swamp Road for a marijuana production operation.
All set, Councilor Oniski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Madam City Clerk.
Councilor Flaherty, the floor is yours.
I thought this was a request from the mayor. Want me to take it?
I'm sorry?
I thought it was a request from the mayor. All right. So the request from the mayor submitting amended FY22 budget based on proposal presented by me. Proposal is to move firefighter EMS back to the fire department in the general fund and charge back the ambulance fund for the benefit costs associated with the employees that are included in the ambulance budget. That's Medicare, OPEB, insurance, retirement, public safety communications, a portion of that cost that's related to ambulance. Following general fund budgets will be amended. Add $1,000 to purchase a service for the RAVE system in the emergency management, $150,000 to flood control for necessary levee work, and reduce the amount of free cash by $187,829.85.
Just to add to that, so that, and I apologize for not mentioning this before, the emergency management add $1,000, contract was renegotiated, so we do not need to do that extra $1,000.
Cool.
Just for.
Okay, motion to amend and increase the free cash to $188,829.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded as
What,
amended.
I mean, what exactly is the motion? I get it, he read what's on the agenda.
Yeah, so he'll,
But I think it's gotta be immediate consideration so we can do it tonight. And I think we gotta do it before the budget reconciliation votes.
Yep.
So whether it's to refer it to the finance, as the committee of the whole to do it tonight under immediate consideration. I have no problem with it, I just think
Yeah.
the motion's gotta say something.
And I don't see the exact transfers on here, so I'm assuming that it's coming later.
I actually have the numbers instead of the percentages, which is how the motion was written.
Yep.
So I've got them, we can go through them.
But they're not on, when you click on the PDF document,
No, they're not.
right, so that's what I was concerned with. So can we use the numbers that are on the spreadsheet? Can I ask the,
yeah, go ahead.
I think your numbers are amended slightly.
they're in sync?
They're close.
Close. Yeah, I think they're close, other than the exact people that we're moving, because I took an average of all the salaries, not the exact 5 people, so I think there's a little bit of a change there, but not by much. So
Do you want Councilor Sullivan to go through the numbers, or?
sure, if he has numbers,
Well, okay. We're gonna do them again later.
Well, no,
I'm happy to do them twice, that's no problem.
I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with this. This is a little unique in the situation, so.
Yep.
yeah, I expected it to come in as an order
Right.
written out that we would vote on first and then talk about it later in finance, but we can do it however you want. I would defer to Councilor Sullivan.
Well, so. Help me out here, Vicky. So the health insurance number, the total that we're talking about moving here now is $990,770.24. And then there's a deduct on the city side in the fire department by putting those 4 back of $466,923. So the net available to the city, if all of these were approved, is $523,846.25. Okay. So we can do the breakout of that. The insurance, you're talking about moving $308,000. The pension number is $171,579.75. The OPED is $183,018.40, and Medicare is $33,172.09. The dispatch, or listed here as public safety communications, is $295,000. You add those five up, it gets you the $990,770.24 that I referenced before, and then you're moving five firefighters back onto the fire department budget, so back onto the city side general fund of $466,923.99. So the net is $523,846.25, and then there's the corresponding requests in the motion to spend the money, or at least some of it, and that is $150,000 to the flood control. We've already disposed of the $1,000 to emergency management. There's a deduct on the public safety communications of that $295,000, which is a general fund deduct. The fire department has an increase of $466,923.99. The health insurance account gets a credit on the city side of $308,000. The pension gets a credit of $171,579.75. The Medicare is $33,172.09. And then there's less use of free cash of $189,872.85. I'm sure everybody followed that precisely.
Perfect.
Second, as submitted.
Are you comfortable with making the motion?
To do that?
Yeah.
No.
Right.
I'm voting no. But
So-
Councilor Flaherty will, once you decide.
Okay.
Well, he just seconded it, that's why I just wanted to make sure.
So I'll make a motion to do what he just said.
Oh, I'll make that motion. That motion?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
I'll do that, so we can discuss it for immediate
Yes,
consideration?
yes.
Yes, I'll do that.
Oh, okay, all right, we're
Yeah,
good.
second.
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah. And you just have the updated numbers that what's showing here, isn't it?
Yeah, you dealt in percentages, these are the numbers
Yep,
from the auditor.
exactly. Yep.
Counselor Harris, did you have a question?
I had a couple for Councilor Flaherty.
Go right ahead.
Okay.
That's all right?
Yep.
Since this is your motion and it's changing the mayor's budget, will this hurt the firefighters in any way? That's one. Will it affect our citizens' taxes in any way? And tonight, the President of the United States stated that there was an agreement they believe that's coming that's going to involve many dollars for levies. So does that affect what you're asking for the levy work?
Okay. So I'll take it in order. So the firefighters, no, it won't affect them. This will put the firefighters back in the fire department where they've been for many years. They were just removed last year because of COVID and the budget pressures. It will not affect taxes. The taxes will not increase. This will put money back into the general fund of the city that can be used for other things, thereby potentially lowering the tax rate depending what we do in November. And the dollars for the levies are for capital improvements, and we have many tens of millions of dollars worth of work that needs to be done. This 150 is to get it started, but we, on the city side, for the dams and levees, we need 10 to 15 million, city portion. So that federal money would be greatly needed. All right. So, good. So let me just tell you why I did this. You know, I've been kind of looking at this one for a while. You know, every year I'm looking for ways to impact the budget. This year, we have about $6 million in spending increases, $2.67 million in tax increases. And that math just doesn't work for the long term. We can't spend $6 million more and only have $2.6 million more in new revenue and expect to keep going in that direction. For the last several years, we've been using that free cash to balance the budget. This year's $2 million, last year was $1.5 million, a couple of years ago it was $500,000. We're in a negative pattern that we should be addressing. We shouldn't be using savings accounts to balance the operating expenses of the city. We should be using them for one-time capital things. So my goal when I started this budget year was to reduce that free cash number to 0 so that our budget would live on what we were actually taking in. And I think that's a good long-term strategic plan for the city. We also are deferring millions of dollars that we owe the employees on a regular basis that is not fair to them and it's not fair to the taxpayers. If you look at the OPEB number in the latest report, if you look at the balance sheet that we get every meeting, you'll notice it's now over $350 million in today's dollars, what we owe employees. 2 months ago, that was in the $200 million range. It went up $87 million in 1 year. That's more than we take in our tax revenues. It's more than any department in the city. In 1 year, it went up $87 million is what we owe employees. So we all have talked about protecting certain departments and employees. I remember the police were here just last week, and we all talked about how we didn't want to cut police, and we don't want to cut fire, we don't want to cut schools. But in reality, we're not treating them fairly by not covering their benefits. We're making them promises that are clearly not affordable, and we have to find a way to address that. The number we need to address that to start out with is in the $2 million range. And you'll see during the summertime, we'll be working on that in long-range finance, and we'll be coming back and asking the mayor to take $2 million out of the stabilization. We put $4 million in there last year. I'm going to ask him to take $2 million out and put it into stabilization. Because, OPEB. Even though OPEB in this budget is $200,000, we owe $350 million. That means we need 1,500 years worth of $200,000, and we won't even come close to paying what we owe. It's an absolutely ridiculous problem, right? So we have to address that problem and find a way to do it. This department, I'm trying to make like the other enterprise funds so that they pay the benefits associated with running that department, not just the labor, but all the benefits associated with it. On a regular basis, that'll be $693,000 plus or minus the numbers that Councilor Sullivan just edited. Say 700,000 round numbers. The ambulance fund has $2.6 million available in it right now, and every single year has leftover money in that ambulance fund. We are no position that will run out of ambulance money just because we started changing this behavior and charging the extra $700,000 to the department. They have the capability to handle it, and it's a common practice in what we're doing with the other enterprise funds. The $295,000 for public safety communications is the direct cost of providing telephone answering services and dispatch services and all those other emergency services related to ambulances. When I talked to Nina, she gave me a breakdown of all the calls and where they ended up. So they have thousands of callers. She keeps track of what department they go to, and 25% of those calls are related to ambulance. So 25% of the department's budget with overhead is $295,000. That's this year. Next year, as you know, we're hopefully expanding this public safety communication department and getting more grants. The cost to the city will be much, much lower, so our cost charged back to this department will be almost 0. So this is a one-time bump of that extra $295, but the regular recurring number will be in the $700,000 range. It's a good move, like I said, and it saves the taxpayers, and it puts it in line with all the other enterprise funds we have. So that's why I wanted to do it. I think you'll see, the results tonight are we're able to do some projects that were deferred, and we're able to put back money into free cash. So it's a good thing. Thank you.
Councilor Adams, then Mel?
Yeah, I guess my question would be, was this discussed with the mayor and the fire chief, or is this something that you want to do as a councilor?
I discussed it with the mayor and the auditor. I discussed it with the chief not in the exact dollar amounts, because I didn't have the exact dollars when I talked to him, but we talked about another issue that's in the funding ordinance for this, and I brought up the fact that we wanted to move, Councilor Bean asked to move the 5 people back. The fire chief thought that that's what he was going to do. Remember, he came and spoke to us in the other room. That was his original plan, to put the fire guys back in there. So he's all on board with that. I talked to him about charging back the benefits without having the exact numbers in place, and he knew it was coming. Of course, they would like to have no money come out of this ambulance fund and sit on it and use it for other things. But the fact is, there's $2.6 million available in there, and $700,000 isn't going to negatively affect their ability to do anything. They really make a good profit for the city. It's been a good move. When they change collection services, it's brought in a lot more money than we spend. So it's a good deal.
I guess my question would be, why didn't he propose that in his budget?
I don't think, the chief? The chief did propose it, and because of the budget scenarios that were working out, I think the mayor told him to leave them in there for this year because there were so many other budget stresses.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to add, with respect to the flood control money, we have spoken at length with Representative Pease about getting some flood control money through the appropriation. But the thing is, the city has been in non-compliance with the Army Corps of Engineers for a long, long time. And for as long as I have been aware of the situation, we have been trying to rectify it, and it just keeps getting put off and put off. And the thing is, we're now putting a pretty large investment in terms of building infrastructure on the other side of that levee. And so I would think that actually officially having some money set aside to bring us toward compliance, because this won't even get us there, but a direct application of the city trying to make an effort to bring us toward compliance, if there were an emergency to happen, you know, perhaps it would be looked better upon because the city were making this effort. And so I will be in support if for only that reason that we, you know, if there were to be an emergency, you know, we're not eligible for help because we're not in compliance. And so this would at least be a good faith effort showing that we are trying to be in compliance. Thank you.
Councilor Riley.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I mean, over the years, I've talked with some of the senior departments, you know, police and fire and stuff like that. Your senior officers know that these benefits may not be for some of the new guys that are just starting out in their careers now, because they're very well aware of these situations, you know, and we're actually doing a disservice to our younger officers, because if we don't get a handle on this, at some point, push comes to shove, there's going to be, you know, unless some government comes in and prints more money and bails us out, there's not going to be a way to handle these liabilities. So the senior officers know that, you know, either they need to contribute more or that sort of thing. When they're dealing with payroll and that sort of thing, they're looking at these numbers and they just realize that these things can't, they're not going to be there, you know, 20 years from now, that sort of thing. So, and these numbers are just getting worse. So it is something that we need to address. It is tied to, you know, obviously wages, everything's tied to gross wages and these labor contracts. You know, I voted for a lot of these budget items and that sort of thing because I think the department heads and the departments do a great job for the part of the budget that they can control. But each one of them will come in and go talk about contractual amounts, and that's really what's pushing them over because they're doing a great job on their budgets, running their departments, great job every day, working with whatever the mayor asks them to do. That's not really the problem. The problem is that they're not able to control their own labor and all the costs tied into it. And that becomes the issue.
Councilor
So I'm going to, I'm a no vote, although I can support the money that would go to OPED, although quite honestly not in then reducing the free cash allotment, because quite frankly that doesn't do anything for OPED. If we were going to do that, we wouldn't reduce the free cash that we're currently requirement in the budget. We'd add this 183 to the 200 that's already in the budget. So I could support doing that from this account. I'm going to oppose the rest of it. Really all this is moving, and I applaud creative financing, certainly look to use it wherever we can, but this is really just moving the pea in the shell, and the money all gets spent on the other side, so there isn't any savings, and I got a real problem, you know, basically rating this account because it will ultimately, long run, take away all the flexibility in this account, which we have used to buy trucks and ambulances on a regular basis. We buy the latest equipment that the medical community provides that's out there. And as we all know, as hard as we try and as good as our people are, the people that do maintenance at any form out of any department always have one arm tied behind their back because we don't have enough people, we don't have the latest equipment, we don't have the best technology, and I don't want to see that start happening with an ambulance fund or an ambulance service. So I'm a no. and I'm not gonna try to separate all these out to do them separately to be yes on the OPED one, but I just wanted to say that I think, you know, if we're really gonna be consistent on what we wanna do with OPED, we shouldn't then be reducing what we're putting in out of the budget from the 200, and taking it out of this account and taking it off the other side of the budget. So just with that said, I think taking it out of this account long-term is in fact not a good move for the city. It may solve a budget problem this year, but it's, as we all know, it is going to reoccur next year, just like the 5 firefighters didn't go back into the budget this year. You know, I've done it too. I've made that promise sitting here that we're gonna put them back in. It just never happens. So I'm a no.
Wilson, can someone speak to the ordinances that are affected by this particular case? Do we?
Yes, so the ordinance is that the ambulance fund can be used to cover the operating costs of the department as submitted by the mayor and appropriated by the city council. And that's the same kind of language that exists in the other enterprise funds, like the water and sewer. So water and sewer employees, you probably heard Fran talk about the chargebacks for their benefits. It's a line item in their budget. This is the same thing. This is a revenue generating department. It provides very good services, an excellent service, and I'm not saying anything bad about that, but it's a revenue generating department. And common accounting practices to put the expenses that are related to that revenue in that budget. And that's what I'm trying to do here. Like I said, we're already doing it in other places in the city. It's not like this is a brand new thing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with doing it. I think the 295 public safety communications, it's higher this year, but it's going to go down. And you know, I applaud all the efforts of getting that regional center in, because that's truly going to make a big difference to us. But the $700,000 in recurring benefits, that's just one of the costs of running the ambulance service. You know, if we were to outsource this to somebody else and hire another company, we would have to pay them the labor plus benefits. That's all we're trying to do here. I believe the $183,000 is getting added to OPEB, right, in the math?
I don't believe under this motion it does.
It's an offset?
It's a, yep. That's actually the way the motion came in.
Well, 187 plus 150 plus 1,000 doesn't equal your 523,000.
You've got to add 466 back to the fire department.
Yeah, but you said it was $990,000 total minus 466. That left 523. 523 minus 150 minus 187 minus 1,000 doesn't equal 0. It's off by $180-odd thousand, which is what I thought you were adding to OPEB.
I think that reduces the free cash.
The reduction of free cash is listed at 187.
Yep. Which balances it at 0. Right?
No.
What's your
You said 523,846.
523,846?
Right, and then on the agenda, $1,000 emergency management, $150,000 flood control, $187,829 free cash. That doesn't add up to 523. It's off by that 182,000 or so. So I thought it was, that's why I didn't see the breakdown here, but that's, I think the 182 went on top of the 200.
The only thing I changed in your spreadsheet was the number of actual salaries.
The 466,923?
Yeah, because you had 304 originally, and I went to the fire department
Right.
for the ambulance budget and, took fire out there.
Yep.
But if you add the 183 for the OPEB, it doesn't net to 0.
1,000 plus 150,000 plus 187,829. That's 338,000 in new spending minus 523,846 equals 185,000, which is close to that OPEB number.
I went through this
Okay.
ton yesterday, and zero that underneath.
What, a recess? If we're gonna talk this out like this, we gotta probably recess.
So what's the plan for the second item on the agenda? Are we supposed to vote on every department line item tonight?
Well, you'd think, yeah, ideally, every appropriation needs.
I mean, you can just open it up for cuts, I think.
Yeah, we can, I mean, we can do it that way, we can just open it up for individual
Yes.
cuts.
I mean,
Yes.
pleasure of the council, but, I mean,
Right.
having to call every single one of them. No one has any cuts.
Right.
So would,
We got to vote on the immediate consideration first anyways. If that doesn't fly, it's a moot point.
Well, we don't need immediate consideration for the mayor editing his own budget. Like, he submitted it, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying, when I talked about before, that was removing.
yeah, it doesn't, I don't, immediate's 100% too. It's not on the agenda as an immediate.
Get it to zero?
Okay.
I mean, you want to deal with the motions? I mean, I just want people to be comfortable with what they're voting on.
Well, I believe all his numbers are correct because they're updated based on the
Right.
salary, so I'd be okay going one by one through the items he has, and if there's 182,000 left over at the end, we can figure out what to do with that later,
How many total?
right? It's just, it's gonna flow to free
There's
cash
five-
anyhow.
there's five out of the ambulance account, then you gotta add back to the
Add
fire.
back in, so it's double.
Yeah, I'm okay doing that. I just think there's gonna be money left over, and if it's left over, it goes to free cash anyhow, and it just reduces tax rate, so it, I mean,
It's the last thing I want to do is prolong this stuff, but it sounds like we need the record
Well-
to show it, right, on the transfers.
I mean, you know, I don't know where everybody else is. I'm fine just leaving it as a block with the, you know, technically the cuts to the city side and the
Right,
you
yeah,
know, additions to the ambulance.
I'm
account.
comfortable with that
But-
too.
Which
I
is
mean-
where it sits right now, although we still need the motion for immediate consideration, I still think, because it's on the
Okay.
agenda tonight. But that said, you know, if people want it split out, we can do it.
And that's got to be 100%, so. if we
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
get-
no, yep.
If we don't get the immediate consideration, it's.
Well, it's dead, so.
well, it doesn't ask for an immediate consideration.
Yeah, but it just came in tonight. I mean, I appreciate the fact that we knew that this was gonna come in tonight.
Well, no, we
but-
voted to send it to the mayor last meeting.
No, I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong, although it would have been nice if this was not at the last minute. But I understand it was coming in tonight, but it's on the agenda for the first time for an appropriation and a vote. I mean, I'll vote yes, even though I'm a no. I don't want to be, I'm not going to be that guy, but I'm just saying, I do think it's come in tonight for the first time, officially.
It's
I
not a
understand
report,
you
it's
made
not
the
reporting
motion.
out from committees what the deal is.
Well, Why don't we vote on immediate consideration first? We'll just go right from there.
I don't care. I mean, it's still in finance. We sent it to finance, so it can come out again Monday if finance wants to. Chair of finance isn't here, so.
Do we have time to publish the orders of appropriation? That waits till Monday?
Do you want to do them, you mean?
Yeah, just everything that has to happen in terms of notice and work, which is why I thought we were kind of here tonight.
Yeah,
We should do.
If there, I don't want to get ahead of them, but if this doesn't get dealt with tonight and that gets dealt with Monday night, is there still enough time to do it all appropriately?
Then you'll have to have another meeting after Monday to vote on the orders. Because tonight, whatever you voted on, we would do the orders from the votes from tonight, and then those orders will be voted on Monday. So if you're making changes on Monday, you'd have to prepare the orders for, and then a subsequent
Yep.
meeting.
Yeah, okay. So how many meetings we want to have?
okay. I'm okay moving it forward. Just, and then we don't, that'll
Yeah,
make it,
I
it'll
mean,
make it cleaner for us later, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with the vote. The sticky point for me is the immediate consideration piece. I don't think it is immediate consideration.
Right, neither do I. We already voted to send it to the mayor.
I know it's the
and
first time
Spares
coming in, but
responding,
it's,
and it
there's
already
nothing
went to
different
finance.
than what it came into the committee, yeah.
Did finance talk about it on Tuesday?
No, they didn't have anything.
Oh,
There was nothing, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Oh, okay.
this is,
Yeah.
you know, no, I was gonna say, never mind.
Yeah.
go ahead.
I'll yield to the chair. I'm not going to call the vote.
So,
Fine.
well, so we're gonna have to make a motion for immediate consideration then. So can we have that? please?
Well, if you rule it doesn't have to be, I'll live by the rules, so just call it, and that's good by me.
Just bring it to a vote. Just either way, either immediate or let's just bring it to a...
Just deal with the motion then. Deal
Either
with
way.
the-
Well, I'm
deal with
gonna deal with the
appropriate-
motion on the agenda.
Yeah, it's either gonna go up or
Okay.
down.
That's right. So it's, as far as I'm concerned, this motion is coming out of committee.
Okay.
Yes.
Amen.
Although it doesn't, it says communications from the mayor, that wasn't the intent here.
fine.
I think we were all in that understanding.
Okay.
Unless I'm wrong for saying
Good by me.
So motion to,
Came out of the committee of the whole, right?
it never came up.
no, it went to the mayor that way. All right, so I'll make a motion to use Councilor Sullivan's numbers and pass as submitted by Councilor Sullivan's numbers.
And I'm good with that in terms of the motion. And that's going to include all of the deducts on the city side and all of the
Expenditures.
additions on
Yes.
the fire department. So when when the auditor goes to do the orders of appropriation, it's going to reflect the
All
whole
those
plan.
items. Yep.
Okay, all right. And we're going to vote it as a whole.
As a whole.
Yeah,
Yep,
I
so
have a
moved.
question.
Council Harris.
I'm sorry,
That's
Mr.
okay.
President, but, so does that mean that you are a yes?
No, I'm a no.
Okay, I just want to make sure you haven't changed.
No,
We gotta wait till he votes.
No, but I'm
But
going to
people
let, I
want-
would have been a yes. Wait, never mind. I'm
Yeah.
a no on this motion.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying.
All right,
Motion is made and seconded. Any other discussion on this?
no.
Madam City Clerk, roll call.
Flaherty?
Absolutely, and thank you, Mayor, for trying here. This is good.
Harris?
No,
Matthews Kane?
no,
Mello?
Yes.
Morganelli?
Yes.
Oniski?
No.
Sullivan?
No.
Adams?
No.
Alley?
Yes.
Bean?
Yes.
Beltrandy?
No.
Burns?
No.
6-6.
What is it?
6-6.
That's 5.
It is not.
5 yes.
Oh, you got 5? I got 6-6, either way.
Did you get 6?
Failed motion.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You got 5?
I got 5.
Okay. We're moving on. So now we are at the reports of committees.
So.
Counselor
I would-
Sullivan, would you like to make that motion?
Yes, although I think there's probably going to be cuts. So I would move that the fiscal 2022 budget be submitted to the auditor for order of appropriations for the special meeting to be held by the city council on June 28th, 2021 at 6 PM. Recognizing the cut of $30,000 to the mayor's item,
second,
development director, and $30,000 increase under his amended budget for the health department for monitoring of the wells at the sanitary landfill. So
second.
moved.
So we're now in the kind of the same situation though, because that motion is not on the agenda though, correct? Has that
Well,
come-
that's the reconciliation vote.
has that
And
come
now
out,
it's
has
going
that
to be
come out of
discussion,
committee?
and I'm assuming there's going to be cuts at least suggested, if nothing else.
Fair enough. Any questions, comments? Counselor Flaherty?
Yep. So my comments, again, just recap what I said earlier, is that we have $6 million roughly in increased spending here. We cannot live this way. You know, this is not a conservative budget. This is a, kind of, whatever flies budget. There has not been a lot of effort to trim this budget to make it more palatable for the taxpayers. A $6 million increase in spending is a significant increase in spending. We are only getting $2.6 million in tax revenue, which is a tax increase. We can't live by spending double in new money what we're taking in new revenue. It just doesn't work long term. All right, we're taking about $2 million out of stabilization. We're getting some increase in state aid, though not a lot. If you look at the state aid numbers, they're really, it's $344,000 increase in state aid. 153 of that is related to schools. The school budget is going up $2.3 million. And if you listen to what they said, oh, that's, all those extra people that we're talking about hiring, the 30 extra people, those are all covered in grants. That new virtual academy, that's all covered in grants. So their regular budget from last year, not including all that new stuff they're adding, is going up $2.3 million. That's a huge portion of the budget. It's about, 47% of the increase in the city budget. The rest is, the big items are healthcare. Healthcare insurance is going up $1.1 million. That's for current year health insurance. Has nothing to do with OPEB. $1.1 million increase. The pension is going up $673,000. And I've been talking about that for years. 5.86% compounded year over year. That $673,000 when we only take in $1.67 million in new tax increase before new growth. A huge portion of our new money is tied up in benefits. We have to start making adjustments, and we can't tell every department we love you and we can't ever cut you, because the math just doesn't work. We have to make efforts to cut. Like I said, and telling people that we have a no tax increase because the rate may stay the same is not the same thing as no tax increase. We're going to see tax increases of $2.67 million unless we burn free cash later in the year or something else happens. So I'm going to be a no on the total budget. I'm going to make some suggestions for cuts and adjustments in order to get in that neighborhood. I was hoping that we'd be able to use some of the ambulance proceeds, but I have several others that I can go through if you want to go through them one at a time. And I won't be here till midnight, so I promise.
No, you won't be, believe me.
Yeah, no, I reduced it to 3 significant numbers on top of what I thought we would
I
get
get
in the
blind in
ambulance.
my left eye after a while,
Yeah, so I would have gone through every line item that I know how much everybody loved that the last time I did it. So the first one I'm going to suggest again is $300,000 reduction in school budget. So that's a motion to cut $300,000 out of public schools.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
And the discussion is, it's not a cut, it's a reduction and an increase. They're getting $2.351 million increase in their budget request. This would leave them with still a $2 million increase in their request, plus all the money they're getting in the extra grant for those 30 people to help with the counseling services and the online academy. It also, those dollars don't reflect the true cost of the city, because the cost of 30 new employees to the school system is about $450,000 in healthcare benefits on the city side. So of that $1.1 million increase in healthcare, $450 of it is related to the schools. So a reduction of $300,000 brings them with a $2 million increase, and I think that's a very doable number for them. They'd still have over 3% increase in their budget versus last year. And it's last year's budget, by the way, not last year's actual. If you look at last year's actual, it's even a bigger increase. So $300,000 out of schools. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call, Madam City Clerk.
Flaherty?
Yes.
Harris?
No.
Matthews King?
No.
Mello?
Yes.
Morganelli?
Yes.
Oniski?
No.
Sullivan?
No.
Adams?
Yes.
Alley?
Yes.
Bean?
No.
Beltrandy?
No.
Burns?
No.
Five no. I mean, 5 yes.
Five yes, right? Okay. Next line item, engineering department, $1 million reduction in the capital budget for construction.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Yes. This line item is a big increase from the previous years. They're normally around $400,000, $450,000. There is a very good reason that it's increasing by $1 million, but the $1 million is for things that are capital in nature and can be paid for out of stabilization funds, and it's something we would all support if the request came through to fund it with stabilization instead of operating. These are engineering costs related to getting things ready for some of this wave of free money we're going to be getting from whatever government's printing this money for us. And it's, again, an easy justifiable thing. We can cover this $1 million with stabilization, return their budget to the normal $450,000 range, and that will help reduce the use of free cash for, for the operating budget. So $1 million reduction. with the hope that the mayor would resubmit with a stabilization request at any time in the future, because stabilization can happen anytime.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Flaherty?
Yes.
Harris?
Not sure. I just have a question before I vote. Can't do it.
Sure.
Okay. No. No.
Matthews King?
No.
Mello?
Yes.
Morganelli?
Yes.
Oniski?
No.
Sullivan?
No.
Adams?
Yes.
Alley?
Yes.
Bean?
Yes.
Beltrandy?
Yes.
Burns?
Yes.
Should I get on the table and dance?
We've seen you dance. That's not good.
We're going to end up funding it another way, Dave.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Right.
No, thank you very much. At least,
Counselor Flaherty.
thank you. Purchasing Department, $100,000 out of electrical cost.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Yep, this is for the street lights. It's over $300,000. It's been over $300,000 for several years. They've replaced the lights with high-efficiency lights, and they haven't changed the bill for us. We've asked to prove that the bill is accurate several times. We haven't got it. We have friendly people on the G&E Commission and a nice new manager there, and I think we should go after them for the $100,000 or have them prove what they actually are charging us is accurate.
Counselor Sullivan.
So just on this point, because I was surprised when we were going through this item on the budget during the committee of the whole meeting, so I did follow up with the G&E. The way the street lights are structured is the city had to pay for those. So for the first few years, the capital cost of the new lighting was paid for, so the bill stayed the same. There is supposedly going to be, and I do not have the breakdown yet, there is supposedly going to be a significant savings that would reflect in next year's fiscal budget because the capital costs are all going to be paid off. That's typically how these energy efficiency projects work. You pay for them out of your savings and then you see savings long-term. Now, I do not have the numbers. That's with a conversation with the general manager who I trust. So he's going to get those numbers. I'm going to be a no on this, although I do think you'll see a significant savings probably in next year's budget if that conversation is correct.
Counselor Beltran.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I'm going to be a no on this, and I'll tell you why. I just don't want to handcuff this department with that $100,000. I mean, she doesn't have that kind of flexibility. Her budget was razor edge.
Yeah, it's, I agree.
I can't do it, good conscience.
All right, motion to withdraw based on what Council Sullivan suggested.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to withdraw. We did have the conversation. There was a couple other items that we talked about too.
Yep.
Flares and the waste.
And internet.
Flares and the traffic lights.
So hopefully it'll be a good ending discussion, so.
Okay.
Motion made and seconded for withdrawal. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Counselor Flaherty.
Thank you. That's going to be the last cut I'm going to suggest. I came to my $2 million neighborhood by those three cuts, plus the money I thought we were going to get out of ambulance. And I knew we had new growth coming in that's going to be higher than this $1 million that's in the budget. And we have around $300,000 or so in the marijuana money right now, and I think it's going to be higher next year. So I think we had, enough flexibility in the budget to get close to that $2 million range. I appreciate the efforts for engineers. But later on, I'm going to be a no on the total budget, just because I think we have to change our spending habits. Thank you.
Any other discussion before we move the vote?
No, just
Counselor
real
Sullivan.
quick. I just wanted to thank, we had wonderful attendance from all the counselors on the budget of the whole meeting. And while I don't necessarily think it's the best way to do these budget hearings, that's basically given open meeting rules that have been laid down. That's what we have. But the attendance and the participation of the council has been significant. And I think everybody, and it's been well noticed and well publicized. There were plenty of opportunities for people to weigh in. So I just wanted to thank my colleagues for all their hard work as well. And I think I can say that on behalf of the chair.
Counselor Flaherty.
Yep, thank you. And I don't disagree that they were useful, but there was no focus or no plan on what to do at those meetings. None of us sat around the table and said, what are we going to do this year for the budget? There were, I think, 2 or 3 cut suggestions out of, dozens of hours of meetings, but there was no philosophy of what the city needs. The council didn't get together and say, we're going to shoot for a 0 tax increase or not using savings or these priorities in a capital plan. We asked for the capital plan, late December or early January, hoping to have it in time so that we could include it in our discussions about where our priorities were in the city. None of that ever happened. We had the finance committee run all these meetings, but every single motion was accept the budget as submitted by the mayor. There was no real effort made to change this budget by anybody. And I picked some easy ones tonight, but I could have gone through and made a lot more. I just knew they wouldn't pass based on what was going on at these meetings. And I think that's a disservice. If we're going to do that, we might as well just let them submit the budget and just let it fly without voting on it. Right? If we didn't vote on it, it would still pass as submitted. Right? Our job is to look out for the taxpayers, do the work, and help steer the direction of the city. And right now, I don't think that's happening. I hope it changes in the future, and this mayor has been fantastic to work with. I will say that. I mean, when was the last time you saw a mayor making edits to our budget based on our feedback during the budget process, right? This is the first time I can remember, and this is my 11th year. So I really, truly appreciate that. And we need more of that, but we need more of it. There's definitely room. Anybody that's walked in the schools knows there's wiggle room in that school budget, and you just need somebody to go and explore there. And there's room in other budgets that if you had a CFO, they could help find some of these things. Like, it didn't take that long to find that money in the fire and ambulance budget, right? And I did that while I was spending way too many hours on the flag thing. There's opportunities in the budget to make changes. We just have to set some guidelines and do the work. So I hope that happens next year, and I hope the Finance Committee actually makes some recommendations other than just pass it as is. And that's what the job is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a comment on that. This committee as a whole, as much as some people don't like the format, clearly there was cooperation with the mayor's office just because we had everybody in the room. In all the years that I've been on the council, I've gone to many of these budget meetings, individual meetings. There's nobody there. I mean, there's a handful of people. This way here, we at least had everybody in the room, and everybody got to hear what was going on and make comments on it. I just think, I know you don't like the process, some of you don't like it, but I think that we get more input this way than we do at these individual meetings where we get nobody showing up.
Yeah.
Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I just have, one brief comment, which is basically the situation that we find ourselves in is pretty much baked into the cake. A budget we passed 2 years ago. The truth of the matter is that we have labor contracts or contractual agreements. It's a little line that every department head got up here and mentioned, but it's really the elephant in the room. And the city cannot afford to keep spending more money. We can't even grow our way out of the problem. You can show me any economic model for growth in the city. We couldn't even grow our way out. We've got to control spending. If you ran any business, you've got to control your payroll. Government doesn't want to do that. And any other business, you'd go out. And I've worked for a lot of industries for my life, and you're either going to run a business that can make it, you just can't spend money that you don't have. And so the situation we find ourselves in dates back to labor contracts that in those final years we can't afford. The economy has gone through a lot of things in the last 30 years that I'm aware of. And people have struggled. Some people are still making the same money they made 30 years ago in real dollars. We just need to, everybody does a great job. But if you're making $60, $70, $80, $100,000 a year, we have 100 employees that make well over $100,000 a year. If you can't muddle through while the rest of the world, the working families, the seniors, and small business owners try to get on their feet after economic crisis or this, that, or the other thing, plus inflation, you should be able to survive on that kind of money. We've got to be able to control our labor cost. So.
If I could just make one quick comment, I'm going to support the budget, but this is, I've been part of the city for a long time, and the amount of money that we see this year is unbelievable. We see a lot of money in these budgets, and some people in this room can contest to that back when we didn't have these kind of dollars to work with and make departments whole, and outside of I think we could hire more people and create some positions for the city, but I really wish we could have been a little bit more creative on how we handled the budget itself. It's not so much the council cutting, because we can't move money around. We cut it or don't. And I think most of us don't want to cut departments and hurt that, because we know that for many, many years they've been short. But in the last month or so, I think the city could have been more creative on how to make things work and happen and create funding for projects that are outstanding for years. We're seeing more and more money come from the state and the feds. Obviously, the COVID drove some of that, but now we're seeing levy money. When did we ever see levy money? So that's why I was complete in favor of the ambulance accounting and how to work that money, because I feel definitely in that department, but there's a few others out there that I believe they could have managed their budget better. I think knowing, I guess I'll pick on the fire department, knowing that there was a promise made out there to take 5 out of that ambulance and put it on the city side, there was no real intent to do that. Councilor Sullivan, Mayor Sullivan, not this Mayor Sullivan, the other Mayor Sullivan, had some appropriations mid-year, and we ended up saving some money that way. I like that method. I like that as we go through a budget, you can start thinking, oh, wait a minute, I can move some money around, save some money, put money back in stabilization, put money back in free cash. I like that model, because we really do, the municipal finance is terrible, right? So I just think there are department heads out there that need to be focused on their budget and find ways to manage it better. It's in particular I've had this conversation in public with the chief. Everybody's heard it, but that one was just still sticking with me. So that's why I was supporting it. I don't want to cut individual budgets. I'm not the day-to-day manager. I don't know, what they really need or don't need in the grand scheme of things. We get a synopsis of 15 minutes. We read their budget numbers and we move forward. It's a bad process, but in the end, I think as a whole, the city can be better on how to manage it, especially in the last year or two, because there's flush with money right now. We have plenty of money to do what we want with. And we're seeing that with construction projects. We're seeing that with the money that was with the school department. We're giving them money that they're looking for. They were very happy to make the deal about, not using, let them take the 2 houses down with elementary schools, let them deal with the pool. Originally, we were going to do that, if you remember, we were going to do that through stabilization money. Well, when we told them that they needed to do that and we wouldn't cut, they were more than happy. So I think you make those deals. You make those not so much cuts, but that's the way you move money around. So I'll support the budget, but I would hope, especially if we have another year moving forward, that we can be more creative and really start doing some things that we need to do around here rather than just put fires out. So, Councilor Flaherty.
Yep, thank you. And I agree. And the schools, the reason they can afford to do that is because they didn't spend last year's budget that was cut. They had extra money in there. They were $6 million behind spend a little while ago. They have the extra money in there. That's why I suggest that $300,000 is not a big number for them. It really isn't. They're getting $2 million more than last year's, request. They have the flexibility to be able to handle that kind of stuff, but they can't keep increasing $2 million and $3 million a year. The budget can't handle it. So, and they also seem to ignore the request of the mayor. I thought many department heads came before us and said their instruction very clearly was contractual increases, zero spend everything else. How many department heads said that to us? Pretty much all of them, right? There were a couple exceptions, and you know who they are, and they have the biggest increases in expenses. They either didn't get the message or they completely ignored the message or thought it didn't apply to them because they were so, such protected status. But every other department came before us and said the mayor told us to give out the contractual raises and level spend. That just didn't happen in some places. And like I said about the benefits are 31% of payroll right now. That's a big number. That's not common in the private sector. 31% of payroll is a big number. And they're the second and third largest line items in the budget after schools. We have to get control of those benefits somehow. And that's not going to be a fun conversation because there is no good answer other than reduce the benefits or increase the co-pays, right? That's the answer. There is no other magic answer. And it's just going to be a tough conversation, but it's something we have to do. So again, I'm a no, on the budget. I appreciate the flexibility in the last month, but I just don't think the process was right and we didn't have the right goals to start with, and I don't know how we're going to do it in the future. Thank you.
I'm going to move the question unless someone for the first time would like to speak. Councilor Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, it seems every time we go through the budget process, I come up with the same conclusion that a lot of it is out of our control because of some of the things that were mentioned: personal service agreements, union contracts, salary and benefit agreements. In those two things, I look at some of the the pay increases of 7-8%, for some of the departments in the city. And I think, what person in the private sector gets a 7% pay increase, 6%, 5%? If you get 2%, you're lucky. You get a 2% pay increase and a Christmas bonus if it comes in, and that's pretty good. So I really think one of the things we need to think about going forward, and it's not this body, it's in the corner office of the city. Is really, what is a cap on a salary for a police chief, a fire chief, any kind of department head in the city? What is a pay increase that is respectable and deserved, especially if you're in public safety and you're saving lives on a daily basis, and you're doing what you can to train your staff to do that effectively and professionally. So I'm all for supporting, teachers and firefighters and police. I've always said that. But the city, we can't keep spending the taxpayers' money like this. They deserve to get a level of public safety and get their trash picked up on time, and not have to pay a fee like some other towns, and those types of things. But at what cost? And I think, going forward, we really have to have some discussions. And Councilor Flaherty's right about a plan. What is our plan? Like, what do we really want to do as a city together? That's this body, the mayor, department heads. What can we rally around? How can we, the capital plan, the future, the next 3 years, 5 years, 20 years, 350. I mean, it sets the stage for the next 350, it really does. So I think to stay fiscally healthy, we need to be very responsible in how we vote for fiscal things. And with that said, I will be voting no on the budget tonight as a whole. And it's not just the decisions that were made this year, but it goes back to decisions from past years that continue to plague our budget with exorbitant increases and things that are in there that are just really breaking the back of the city financially, in my opinion. Thank you.
Councilor Miller?
Thank you, Mr. President. If we did not have $1 million budget cut on the table, I would be voting no on the budget. But I figure if too many people vote no, we're going to lose that cut, right? So I'm not a no on the budget, but I would be, because I feel that this is an exceptionally bad idea to pass a budget that does not include emergency management and flood control as priorities. I believe that those are two very important things. And there are people who have unfilled salary positions sitting empty that have a larger pool of money doing nothing than the entire emergency management budget. That's unbelievable to me. The entire emergency management budget is smaller than unpaid part-time positions being held in other people's departments. I don't get it, and I'm a little new, so I don't understand why I don't get it. But if it weren't for $1 million budget cut on the table, and I hope some of that money gets spent on levies and emergency management, if it weren't for the $1 million budget cut, I would be a no tonight, because I think that this budget shows some priorities that are not in alignment with my values. But I'm a yes because there's $1 million budget cut on the table. So thank you.
I'm going to move the question.
Thank you. I get the
I'll
evil
give you
eye.
30 seconds, but we'll move.
Yeah, it's not $1 million budget cut. It's gonna, the stuff's gonna get funded. It's which pocket it comes out of. So it comes out of free cash or stabilization. You know, the engineering work has to get done. We need the work done. Yeah, so it's
So you'd
just,
rather I
you know,
be
it's a
no?
philosophy matter. Yeah.
No, it's okay.
Welcome to municipal finance.
Just a point of order, I just want to make sure Madam Clerk acknowledges that the original motion was amended to reflect the $1 million cut. Okay.
It is a cut,
Just-
see? Thank you.
Well, it's a cut for tonight anyway.
Yes.
And then we need 9 to get it out of stabilization. That's another whole discussion. Roll call, Madam City Clerk.
Flaherty?
No.
Harris?
Yes.
Matthews Kane?
Yes.
Mello?
Yes.
Morganelli?
No.
Oniski?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Adams?
Yes.
Alley?
No.
Bean?
Yes.
Beltrandy?
Yes.
Burns?
Yes.
Anything else from the council before we adjourn? Councilor Harris?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?